Hello.
Ie, shwmae, ti'n cofio fi?
O ie, pal. Ti'n okay?
Good, diolch yn fawr, ti'n right?
Good, boy. Good, good.
Mae'n neud yn Saesneg os ti'n moyn, os mae'n haws. Fi wedi sgwennu pop yn Saesneg, so...
O, na fe de. Ie, mae'n rwyddach. Os ti'n meddwl, please, ie.
Fine. Great then. Well, we'll start with the charity stuff. You've been non-stop collecting money, doing charity challenges over lockdown, and still at it now during Movember. We'll start off with Geraint Thomas's challenge on Zwift. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, it was basically, Geraint got in touch. He knows that I'm into my cycling and triathlons and stuff now, and asked if I'd support him for the cycle that he was doing, which was basically 3 days of cycling, 12-hour shifts, which, you know, is as hard as it sounds, to be fair. It might be easy for Geraint, but it wasn't for me. That amount of time on the saddle was very tough, but it was introduction I needed really into Zwift, and then it enabled me to do my own kind of challenges on Zwift as well. So I decided after that to jump on the Zwift bike over the space of a week and do nearly 800 miles. The reason I chose 800 miles was because I had a lot of events planned for Valindra, and obviously they'd all been postponed or cancelled. And when I accumulated all the miles or the trekking or the right cycling I was going to do, it was equivalent to nearly 800 miles. So I said, look, I'll do a Zwift challenge. I'll do this mileage, and we'll try and raise some money in the meantime. And that's what we did. And you know, obviously when you're sat on your back, then at home you find other things that you want to do. So this challenge come along, and this is probably my hardest challenge, to be fair. The beast in the November challenge, which, you know, it's 1 mile of running on the first of the month, 2 miles, 3 miles, accumulating all the way up to 30 days on the last 30 miles on the last day. So this one I found really hard. It's very, very tough. A lot of niggles, and I'm not a long distance runner, so you know, I've had to run 27 miles today, and I am absolutely shattered. But you know, we're raising money for charity, so it's all good.
How are the legs? Do you think you can finish it?
I got to be honest. I got into the third week, end of the third week, and I didn't see how I was going to finish it. I got so many little niggles and little injuries, DOMs and sore ankles and Achilles and calves. I just thought, I really don't know how I'm going to do it. And you know, I think it's just, you know, I'm quite mentally strong. How I've kept going, I have no idea. But you know, I've had people running with me. I've had people just, you know, giving me well wishing me through these events, and of course I'm doing it for Valindra Cancer Centre. So I don't think I'd be able to live with myself if I actually pulled the plug on this. So I'm still going. Like I say, I've got 4 days to go, but you know, if I have to crawl over the line, I'll crawl over the line. It doesn't bother me.
That's brilliant. It's probably hard comparing a charity challenge over a month or a certain period of time with the Ironmans. But the next question I have is, which one's toughest? Is it now the Movember challenge you're doing for Valindra, or is it better to getting it over and done with in a day like the Ironman?
Yeah, a little bit different in the sense, you know, when I did the Ironman, that was physically the most challenging thing I've ever had to do, for a number of reasons. You know, mainly because I'm not renowned for my swimming, cycling, or running long distance. You know, the difficult thing about this challenge, it's just relentless. You know, it doesn't get any easier until the end of the month. In fact, it gets more mileage, and it gets harder because you're more tired. You're running when you're fatigued. And when you look at the fact that you run in 20 odd miles and 465 miles in total in 4 weeks, and in fact the last 4 days itself is over 100 miles, so that says it all really about this challenge. It is mentally grueling, and it's physically grueling. So this is one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, really. And you know, I've done things like, I've done 4 Ironmen, I've climbed Everest, I've done I've done a lot of trekking, in Argentina and Peru, and cycling all over the world. But this one, yeah, it really is kicking my ass at the moment. I got to be honest. But like I say, there's no way I'm going to be, unless something really drastic happens. Touch wood, it doesn't. I will complete this really on the weekend. So, but it's called the November Challenge, and it is a challenge, and it is a beast as well. To be fair, it really has got me on the ropes.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, good luck to you with over the weekend and the next few days anyway.
Cheers, bye.
Your wife probably sees you less now than when you were playing with all these challenges. What does she think about? Is she supportive of them, and what does she think about them?
Yeah, she's supportive because she knows, that I've got ants in my pants. I can't keep still at the best of times, and when I've got nothing to do, I'll think of something to do. And she knows that. We've known each other, God, since I was 18 years old, and I've always been the same. I've always been very active and always wanted to do something. And when I haven't got something to do, I go and find something to do. So yeah, she's very used to it. She's proud of the fact that I do all this for charity as well, and she supports me 100%. But yeah, I don't know whether it's a good or bad thing that she doesn't see me. She doesn't seem to complain that often, really. So that's not a bad thing, I think. I don't know. I really don't know. But no, she's great. And the family are great as well. I think they're just used to me doing stuff now. I tend to do 2 or 3 big events a year, which usually means I'm away from home. Obviously, this November challenge, I'm home, so at least they see me in the evenings after I've been running. And they know why I do it. They know that I enjoy doing charity work. They know that I love working with Velindre Cancer Centre, and they know that I'm always challenging myself. And when the rugby's gone, you need something else really to occupy yourself and really test yourself. And that's why they're called challenges. They're not they're not easy, and I enjoy doing them.
Onto the rugby now. Are we specifically looking at Gatland's time with Wales? I've been researching, and so in 2008, after Gatland's first game in charge, you went to Twickenham and won for the first time in, I think it was 20 plus years or something. But after a few pints, I think you decided to ask Gat to scrap outside, did it?
Yeah. Oh, look. What a start to his career as a Welsh coach. But yeah, we beat England, and obviously we wanted to. We were told to celebrate in style. Gats loves a pint himself, and unfortunately for me and a couple of the lads, we probably had a little bit too much to drink, and I went back to Cardiff. Obviously came back to Cardiff because we had a game the following week, and as you do, celebrated a bit too much, and woke up in the morning thinking everything was fine the night before, only to be told in the morning that I'd offered, tongue-in-cheek really, but offered Warren Gatland out for a fight in the hotel, which I remember very little about, to be perfectly honest with you. So I ran up to Warren's office and apologized profusely, and he saw the funny side of it. He knew that he was warned then, put it that way, that we had a couple of characters in the squad. I was one of them, and that I had small man syndrome after a few beers. So, but as he said, it was all tongue in cheek. It was all fun and games. And look, we went on and won the Grand Slam. So
wasn't too bad.
And he doesn't hold a grudge, thank God.
Yeah. Oh, damn. Later on in your career, I think you had another chat, but I think it was a bit more serious chat when after you knocked Ireland out of the World Cup in 2011, you went and knocked on his hotel room after the Ireland game to announce your retirement. How did that chat go? I think that must have been quite emotional. Yeah,
it was emotional, but it was something I had to get off my chest. I think, the 2011 World Cup was fantastic. I still believe, we would have gone on and won that if we'd have beaten France. And we still should have beaten France. But I remember during that World Cup, speaking to a lot of the younger players and seeing the confidence airing through them and thinking, do you know what, I think we're going to win the World Cup. And I said, look, if I'm going to retire at the end of this World Cup anyway, because I can feel it that I'm not getting any younger, I'm not getting any quicker, I'm not going to become a better player, and players are just going to catch me up and overtake me. And I didn't want that. I wanted to go out on my own terms. So I'd been thinking about, this conversation with Warren a long time throughout the World Cup, and we beat Ireland, and I thought, right, you know what, I do believe we're going to win the World Cup. So I spoke to Warren and Rob and said, after this World Cup, after we've won the World Cup, I said, I'm going to retire. And Gats was like, well, that's great, but, I still think you got another year left in you. And, we big things in the Six Nations next year, in hindsight was as well. So, and I was like, look, it just, when I'm saying it, it just feels right. I think I should do this. So he said, look, it's your decision. It's a difficult one to make, and I admire you coming and telling me now. Because I said, look, I'm going to finish this World Cup in style. This is how I want to end my career, and this is how I want to go. And he was great, and it was Rob Howley really that was telling me, look, Shane, don't make this decision yet. Let's wait and see what happens. But the decision was made really in my head, and then of course, it didn't particularly go the way we wanted to, and Gats comes up to me after the World Cup and says, look, Shane, he said, after everything you've done for Wales, you can't go out having played in the third place playoff against Australia in the World Cup. It's just not fit in. He said, you've got to play in the autumn series, and I thought, well, yeah, it's a home game. We'll have a huge crowd there. My family will be there. It's the perfect way to go, and that's how it ended for me, and apart from the result, almost a perfect finish really. But hindsight would have been, if I'd have stayed on for 12 months, who knows, I could have won a championship again with Wales. But I think I made the right choice.
You just mentioned there the fairy tale ending against the Aussies in Cardiff. What was going through your head with that, the ball getting into your hands and you going over the line? It must have been literally a childhood's dream.
It was. Look, I loved playing for Wales. But I almost loved scoring tries more. It's what I was there to do. And when I was doing it at the time, I felt that's what I was put on the planet to do, was score tries for my country, and I loved it. The ecstasy and the support and the atmosphere and the crowd going nuts. God, I miss it. I'm never going to get that back, unfortunately. So, yeah, to score that way in the last seconds of the match in a game where, it was very frustrating for me, because I wanted to go out in style. I wanted to win the game, and I wanted to do something special, and I couldn't for 79 minutes. It wasn't the best of games, and I was increasingly frustrated as the game goes on. And for 5 minutes before I even get the ball, I am absolutely screaming the house down just to get the ball out wide, to have an opportunity to take on Berwick Barnes or Connors or whoever it was on the wing there, because I felt, it was my last hurrah and I had to have a go. So, yeah, when I slipped the tackle on the outside of Berwick Barnes there, I just thought, oh my God, thank you, This is always going to end for me, and I'll always have this. Despite the result, I was in ecstasy. It was ecstasy for me, because I had the whole crowd there. The crowd was up on its feet. I knew all my family and friends were there in the boxes watching. My 2 kids were on the side of the pitch, ready to come on and see me. And I'd scored on my final touch of the ball for Wales again. So, it finished as it started, really, and I absolutely loved it. It's one of my favourite tries for Wales for that reason alone.
Brilliant. But obviously your international career finished, but after winning the league with the Ospreys, you went out then to Japan to play with the Dynamo Boars, if I'm right. And was that a culture shock? Was that how was that?
Yeah, it was a complete culture shock. Very different to anything I'd done in my career. Look, I became a professional rugby player in 98, 99 for Neath. Neath became the Ospreys in 2003. I stayed with the Ospreys all my rugby career till 2012. And I'd lived pretty much in the same 3-mile radius I had all my life. So to go from that to living in Tokyo, tens of millions of people around me, the never sleeps, lights and flashing lights and cars and everything going on 24/7. It was just a huge culture shock. But I absolutely loved it. It was chalk and cheese for me. I hadn't been used to living that way. And I was playing in a team where we had a couple of foreign imports, a couple of ex-international players, and the Japanese boys were great. They're very accommodating. They looked after me. I had a great time out there. They welcomed my family in and looked after us all. I was learning a new language, living in the other side of the world, for a team that really did appreciate me and the boys around us. And we had a great time. The family had a great time, and like I say, the kids were treated like royalty. So was the wife, and I wouldn't have changed it for the world. I think there was at one point when I was asked to do it, I said no, because I didn't want to take my two young children and my wife to the other side of the world where we didn't speak the language and didn't know anything about. But I was coaxed into it in the end, and I'll never look back. It was 3 years of some of the best, I suppose, the best rugby life I've ever had, to be honest with you, and the family loved it as well. So what a place Japan is.
Did you have an initiation after arriving? I'm sure you've done your fair share of initiations over the years, but was there a different one out there in Japan?
Not so much initiation. Well, I suppose there is an initiation. Obviously, they encourage you to learn the language, so that you can obviously speak to the players around you and get about, and don't need a translator 24/7. And I took that very seriously. I learned Japanese, and pretty much try to get on with the language as best I could. And before every game, it wasn't an initiation as such, but before every game, we had to go up and speak in front of the squad, especially when you were selected within the starting team for the Saturday, and tell the whole squad why it was important you were playing and what you were going to contribute and how it felt to be wearing the jersey. And this was every game, whether it be a friendly or a cup match, So, I got to do that, and probably learned most of my Japanese doing that, to be perfectly honest with you. And in the end, I had a kind of a punchline that I used to use all the time, and it was "Watashi ni ball o kudasai," which used to mean "just pass me the ball." That was my saying, and every time I say it, like the whole of the squad would just burst out laughing. So I just kept it. So yeah, when I went out for the World Cup, I bumped into a couple of the Japanese lads in Tokyo actually, and they came running over and they just said straight away, "Watashi ni ball o kudasai." So that was quite nice. But look, I made some friends there for life, so it's great. It was a great experience. I loved it.
On the field then, what was the main difference playing rugby compared with back with the Ospreys in the Northern Hemisphere?
For me personally, it was the pressure was off. I didn't have to concern myself too much about impressing national coaches or my club coach. It was far more relaxed in that sense. The rugby was a lot easier, I suppose. It wasn't quite as physical. The players weren't as big and as physical as I'd been used to. However, the game was very, very quick. There was a lot of mistakes in the game, a lot of turnovers, a lot of kicking, nice expansive pitches where you had to cover a lot of grass. And I found, that I went to Japan thinking, right, I'm pretty fit. But until I got to Japan, I was, I had about another 15-20% to go, because those lads are so fit in the rugby and the style they play. And I think you probably see that in international rugby.
Yeah.
So that was an eye-opener. But what was great as well, I was playing for a club that was division below the top league. They were trying to get into the top league every year and had been for a number of years. And we were playing in our home pitch was actually in the middle of the factory. So we had one bandstand on one side, and on the rest of it then was just green grass. And families would sit down, have picnics, make hot dogs and cups of tea on the side, and watch the game. And I loved that. Absolutely loved it. It was like going back to grassroots. And it was great for me. It was a perfect way to end, really, because that's where I'd started for the Army United. I'd become a professional. I'd played for my country and Lions, etc., in front of millions of people. To playing on a pitch just in the middle of a park with mums and dads and kids running about, eating hot dogs and selling popcorn. So I loved it. It was great.
Are there any funny moments that stand out when you were there? Anything that tops everything else, and I'll never forget that? Plenty
of good things happen. I think that the thing that stands out the most to me was the hospitality you had from the people of Tokyo and Japan. And it was the second season I had. My family had gone home for Christmas, and I had nothing to do on Christmas Day. Everyone was with their families and so on and so forth. And I got invited to the home of, in fact, the boss of Mitsubishi Heavy Industries Japan to celebrate Christmas with him, which was quite surreal because, this guy was massive. He was absolutely massive in the terms of business and the company, and he took his time out to look after me and take me and introduce me to his family on Christmas time, which meant an awful lot to me, really, because here's a guy that pretty much is running Mitsubishi worldwide, and he's invited me around his house for Christmas Day, and that always stands out because I don't think you'll get that anywhere else in the world, where you'll have someone so important try and help someone out as far down the food chain as I was then, put it that way. But things like that always stand out to me. They were so hospitable, always looking after you, and probably the loveliest people you're ever going to meet, to be perfectly honest. So that's always something that'll stick out in my memory of Japan.
Brilliant. There was one story that I read that you were there when a 7.3 magnitude earthquake hit. Was that scary?
Yeah, that was my first year in Japan. We were living in a house at the time. My family was there, actually. My kids and Gail were there. And I remember we were just watching telly, and a huge flash came on the telly, obviously written all in kanji and Japanese. And it basically said an earthquake had hit central Tokyo. Central Tokyo was about 40 kilometers east of where we were staying. So I thought, okay, right, that's great. That's good to know. But then seconds later, the aftershock hit us, within seconds, and the whole house started shaking. The kids jumped under the breakfast table. My wife was looking at me as if to say, right, what do we do? And I didn't have a clue, and it was very frightening. And the whole house shook. We had wooden floors and tatami flooring, and it was like a wave. It was just doing that, and it was just the most bizarre experience ever. And I ran to the door because I thought, well, at least have a look what other people are doing in the street. And everyone kind of congregated in the street, and the lampposts were shaking. And I went out and I was like, oh my God, what's happening? And they were like, oh, don't worry about it. We have these all the time. This is a pretty big one, but we have these all the time. And by the end of the 3 years, perhaps not to that magnitude, but, we would have an earthquake. And I'd moved house in the second year as well. So I'd moved into a apartment block. And, the whole building would do that once you had a shock. Which is scary at first, but you get so used to them because you get them daily. You really do. And thank God we didn't have a big one in the time we spent there, but very scary. The kids were crying, and as you can imagine, they were only young and looking at me to kind of protect them and tell them what to do. And I didn't have a clue. So, after that, then I was speaking to the boys, and then, I found out the protocols on where to go if there was a big earthquake, and where to meet as a family, or a fire, like fire drills we were having as well. So, we sussed it in the end, but quite scary.
A good story. Back to rugby then, and your career back with the Ospreys and stuff. What was the best tour or away day you've ever been on? can you remember a night out or somewhere when you were in the Heineken Cup, or it could have been in the league? Do you have any stories of any away days?
I think, yeah, we've got plenty of stories, of course, but I remember we played Munster away from home. God, it must have been maybe Jerry was there, so maybe 2 years before I retired, and we were told not to go out, so we had a couple of beers in, and we were told to stay in and behave. Actually, that was the words we were told, because we had a couple of people who did enjoy a beer, and we were sat in the in the hotel in Munster there, and behaving ourselves. And next thing, we were told that there was a gypsy wedding next door. So we all stayed away for obvious reasons. And about halfway through the night, then this man and this woman came bursting through the doors, just going toe to toe on each other, punching each other in the face, and so that was quite an experience. And I remember looking, thinking, "Oh my God, should we?" Initially thinking, right, should we help this woman, because this man was, really getting stuck in. And in the end, one of the boys goes, "I don't think it's her you need to worry about, because she was giving this man an absolute feeding." So only in Ireland, I think. And I remember GT Jonathan Thomas started walking across to kind of stop the fight, I think. And the barman said, "Look," he said, "don't get involved. If I were you, just turn your back and pretend it's not happening." So yeah, there was plenty of nights like that in Ireland for sure. But some great experiences playing with some fantastic players, and God rest his soul, Jerry was one of them as well, and he was there that night. I remember it vividly. But yeah, a lot of stories. Maybe fortunately for us, have to stay on tour.
Yeah, that's good. Who was the toughest opponent you've ever faced? Did you ever play Lomu?
I never played Lomu, no. He was at the Blues, obviously, when I was at the Ospreys, but I remember he was named to play against me once, and he tore his hamstring the week of the game. And I remember thinking, Lynn Jones coming up to me and saying, "Shane, what side, what wing, what do you want to play this week?" And my instinct, without even thinking about it, I said, "What side's Lomu playing on?" Yeah. And he said, he's number 11, he'd be on the left-hand side. I was like, "I'll play on the other side then, no problem." So, yeah, but no, we were lined up to play against each other, but unfortunately, I think he tore his hamstring or pulled his hamstring in the week, which mixed emotions, really. Gutted in the sense that Lomu was one of my heroes and I didn't have the chance to play against him, but in the same sense as well, I don't know how that would have matched up, to be perfectly honest with you, but I would love to have played with Lomu. I think against or with Lomu, to be fair, he epitomised what being a wing was all about back in the day, and since then, we haven't seen anyone like him since. I don't think. This Caleb Clark now's a very similar player as well in stature, but he was just such one of a kind, I think. So yeah, gutted I didn't.
Yeah, that's another story. But who was the toughest opponent then you think you've faced on the pitch?
It would have to be someone like Joe Rococo or Brian Habana. Brian Habana was, tough in the sense that defensively very good, very physical, could read the game really well, and scored tries for fun. He was a predator. He knew where the ball was going. He worked hard. And if you took your eyes off him for a split second, he's under the post. So probably Brian. We had some great tussles over the years, and unfortunately for me, never, apart from the Lions tour, never beat South Africa. So I was always up against it when I played against Brian, really. And what was fitting as well, because he's one of my favourite players. That in 2008, when I did become World Player of the Year, he was the player to give me the trophy, because he'd won it the year before with winning the World Cup with South Africa as well. So yeah, it would have to be Brian, I think.
What was the worst pitch you've played on? That could be back with your Neath days, or before that, even in youth.
Yeah, great question. Probably one of the Ham United's pitches. I played I played, we played a charity game over Christmas, and I was a professional player then as well. And I remember having a pain in my knee playing, and just carried on playing. We had a few beers afterwards, where I didn't think anything of it. Woke up the next morning, my leg was the size of a small rugby ball, then, I suppose, and I'd realised that I had like almost like an inch long bit of plastic stuck in my knee that I'd had off the field, which unfortunately got infected that night as well. The problem is, after you've had a few beers, you don't tend to feel these things. So that was pretty bad. But I do also remember the Millennium Stadium once, as we were warming up, when I used to be on the pallets. I remember Dwayne Peel actually warming up, and his foot going straight through the corner of the pallets before a game. And I remember the groundsman coming round and panicking about it. And then we played the game, and they put a cone over the little hole that was in the field. This is Millennium Stadium, so that hopefully no one would go through this same crack again. So, the 99.9% rest of the field was perfect, but this little bit here was quite dangerous. But yeah, you can't really compare the both, really, can you? Millennium Stadium pitch to the Army United pitch, really.
Who was the best captain you played under, and why?
I think, when it comes to great captains, the likes of Alan Wynne are up there with the best. But, Alan didn't really captain me that much, really. Obviously, I was a senior player to Alan, and, he definitely talked enough on the field, but he wasn't, a captain as such to me. Alfie was my favourite, I think. He's just a no-nonsense captain. He spoke as it was. He didn't try and skirt around issues. If it wasn't working, he would talk about it, and he'd make sure that we'd fix it. There was no nonsense there, and that's what I like. I like that trait in people. As a captain, he's exactly the same. He was good with referees. He looked after his players. Always had the players' best interest at heart. And was a good bloody player himself as well, and put his body on the line and put himself out there. So for that reason, it was Alfie, and he's just hilarious, isn't he? He's a top man that that I enjoyed spending time with as well. So yeah, Alfie was an easy one for me, really.
You've played in many different kits as well over your career. Does one stand out like you didn't really fancy playing in that on a Saturday afternoon? What was your least favourite jersey?
It
could be the material,
yeah,
baggy, or I don't know.
No, I remember when the tight jerseys just come in, really, and this in the Neath days, and I wasn't a big fan initially of the tight jerseys, because I was a skinny little runt that didn't look very good in them, to be perfectly honest with you. But I remember one particular jersey that came out. It was like a turquoise blue Neath jersey, and I remember the boys just absolutely hating it, because it felt like it had nothing really to do with Neath. Some of the players looked ridiculous in it because it was skin tight. And I remember going out for one game, and the boys just before the game just laughing at poor old Andrew Millward, because he had this tight top on, which looked like it was my top, to be perfectly honest. It was so tight, it must have been cutting off the blood to his limbs. And one of the boys, this is before the game, saying that, oh my God, Bully, who his name was his nickname, and they were like, oh my God, doesn't Bully look like a giant smarty? And I just remember that being stuck in my head for the whole 80 minutes of poor old Andrew Millward running around looking like a giant smarty. So yeah, that was a shocking jersey, I got to be honest. I was glad to see the back of that one.
And you used to play with Rowley during your Neath days. Any stories about Rowley? And do you have any stories of him down the
knoll? Yeah, Roland was. We all love Roland. I mean, he's amazing, and he was no different when he was playing. Obviously a very, very good player. Entertainment throughout. You talked about initiation and things like that earlier. He was one of the main guys who initiated me and absolutely battered me. But he was just a pleasure to be around. He brightens up a room when he goes in there. And I remember one of our first summer pre-season camps was down in St. David's, and I know he's from that area, isn't he? And we were camping out, and we had a couple of beers in the night, and I'd had a few drinks, and I thought, right, it's time for me to go to bed. So I left, and Rowley was sharing a tent with me. So I thought I'd leave Rowley there, and I'll get some shut eye so I can get up in the morning to go for a run. And several hours later, Roland bursts into the tent. Obviously, he'd had a few beers to drink, absolutely bollock naked. And this was probably one of the first times really I'd really met Roland. So that was quite interesting. And I remember thinking, if Roland fancies me and he wants to, he wants to get involved in me, there's not much I can do because he was a big man, to be fair. So, I slept with one eye open that night, let me tell you. But that's the kind of guy he is. He's so funny. He's one of the funniest men I think I've ever met.
You've played across the globe in front of many fans. Have you had any stick from any of them? Any little phrases or things you remember that's going to stick with me forever?
Yeah. The most stick I used to get, believe it or not, was in Stradey Park. Yeah. I come up from a Llanelli region. I used to watch Llanelli back in the day. I was there for some big games when they played Australia, and I went to watch them against the All Blacks and Schweppes Cups games, etc. So I was a secret Scarlet fan. So obviously when I went to Neath, it didn't go down particularly well with the locals, and that kind of just grew into the fans on the far side of Stradey Park just hating me, I think, especially when I played for Neath or the Ospreys. So I just remember running down the touchline there and being called all sorts of names and being told I was rubbish and go back home, Shane, and George North's going to get you, Wayne Proctor's going to have you, Mark Jones is going to do this and that.
Oh, on the opposite end of the stick then, you used to get abused or whatever, but did you get anything thrown at you? Have your bras down or knickers down? But that's probably not on the rugby field. That might be in a night out in Tiger or whatever.
Yeah. No, I don't think so. Not so much. I think I played in places where flowers and everything have been thrown. No, not quite underwear, really, to be fair, and not even in nightclubs, to be perfectly honest with you. But the strangest thing I've seen, I remember we played in Argentina in Tucumán, and people were throwing oranges on the pitch to try and put us off our game, and someone actually threw a dead dog on the pitch there when Gavin Ensign was going for one of the kicks. I remember that vividly, which was quite bizarre, really. But that was in Tucumán, Argentina. So unfortunately, that's about as far as it goes as things being thrown on the field, and nothing too pleasant, unfortunately.
You've played in many Welsh derbies, but the man in the middle, Mr. Nigel Owens, do you remember any funny stories about Nigel when you were playing, well, not with him, but on the same field as him?
Plenty of stories in the sense that he's a funny man anyway, and I think there'll be a number of times where you feel yourself wanting to get into an argument with him, but thinking like there's no point to this because he's too sharp and too quick for me to get any banter in here. But I remember we played Munster. I think it was my last but one game at the Liberty Stadium, and I still feel like I went down the touchline, scored the try, and he came back and called it in touch. And I remember me not swearing at him, but I swore. And he called me over. I remember him calling me good boy anyway. Did him a good boy, and give me a talking to, and making me aware that he was the boss. But we never really had run-ins. Nigel was the kind of ref. The best refs are the ones you can approach and speak to. And I don't mean moan at or swear at, and you can ask him and he'll tell you. And that's one of the best things about Nigel, really. But yeah, he gave me I think it was a couple of finger wags there, and told me that I was wrong and that he was right. So who am I to argue, really? But lucky enough, I didn't get on Nigel's wrong side too often because, you know, he'd be far too sharp for me. Like.
Thank you for your time.
Cool.
Diolch yn fawr.
No problem, boy. Thank you.
And good luck with the rest of the challenge.
Cheers, boy. Thanks a lot.
So,
Catch you later, boy.
Ta-ra nawr.
Ta-ra, boy.
Ta-ra.